Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Real Talk. Today we're going to do a big discussion about Avengers Endgame. So, spoiler alert is in effect as of now.
Yeah,
I am Jacob Rice,
and I'm Jared Kidder.
and we are proud to bring to you the new sound of Real Talk. We got
Yeah,
a brand new mic. Everything is sounding wonderful.
yeah, sounds so good.
So I guess we'll dive straight into it. Obviously, we waited a week and a bit to do the big Avengers discussion.
Yeah, I feel like
'Cause
we're
we
the only ones who actually waited a week and a bit. I swear to God, after the first day it came out, shitloads of people started posting like scenes and all that kind of stuff, like bootlegged scenes. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I know it's mildly upsetting, but
Yeah.
that's fine. So we're gonna go through like the plot, and we're gonna talk about different stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously there are a few plot holes that we'll talk about as well.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess we'll start at the beginning. It opens with Hawkeye and his family at a picnic pre-snap,
yeah,
and you get the interaction with Hawkeye and his daughter Lila
yeah.
and the whole family, and then obviously the snap happens,
Mm.
and all of his family is
Mm.
dusted.
Yeah, I like how it starts off tugging at your heartstrings.
Yeah, it's
Straight out of the gate. It's like the second you see it, you think to yourself, "Oh man, so this is how it's gonna be."
yeah, and it sets up that this is not it's not going to be a pleasant film. Like,
Yeah,
not
I mean, like
not unpleasant, but like it's going to be an emotional one.
it's gonna be. Oh man, it's an emotional
And
roller
it
coaster.
it sets that up really, really, really early on.
Yeah,
Like, opening scene, it's like, yeah, we're going to be that kind of film.
yeah,
Um, and that obviously that leads into Hawkeye becoming Ronin.
yeah,
Nobody actually says it, but for comic book fans, we all know that his darker alter ego is Ronin,
yeah.
and he goes around and you see him, you hear about him.
Like he's kind of
Having-
like a. He's not like a. He's not really like a legend, but it's like after the decimation, and he's been reaping havoc on just like gang lords and all that kind of stuff, and you see him kick ass a little bit in the movie, and it just looks fantastic. He is what you wanted Hawkeye to be ever since the first Avengers movie, I reckon. Well, he's what I wanted to see since the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would say it's actually kind of funny because you hear about a horrible scene that he left in Mexico. Rhodey's telling Natasha that there was just bodies everywhere and that he'd clearly done something horrible.
Yeah.
And then you see him in Japan fighting like Yakuza people or
Yeah.
type people. Fun fact: the mob boss that he goes after is actually in a couple of issues of.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's. Well, I put myself on the spot. It's he's in the comic. I think it's Captain America who goes up against him,
Oh, really?
or someone along that lines. Yeah, it's not actually Hawkeye in the comics, but yeah, it's cool to add like just little comic book nods like that
Okay.
throughout.
Oh, there were plenty of comic book nods in this movie.
Oh
man.
yeah, and we'll get to
Heaps.
those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like Hawkeye has his own sort of character arc in this, and I think they've done with him what they should have really done with him from the beginning. But that's good. We love that.
Yeah.
So moving on, you get obviously the return of a few characters. You get Ant-Man,
Yep.
who's the other character who wasn't in Infinity War. For the same reason that Hawkeye wasn't in Infinity War.
Yeah, they're on house arrest. Or
And-
no, they were like he was on house arrest, but he was in the quantum realm. Hawkeye was just on house arrest.
Yeah, so Ant-Man comes back post the decapitating of Thanos,
Yeah.
and basically sets the whole time travel aspect of the movie in motion. Going, I've been gone for 5 years, but for me it was only 5 hours.
Yeah.
Setting up that it is possible to move through time in the MCU, which is insane. I actually really liked Ant-Man in this film. He didn't have a lot like of major moments. He punches a Leviathan during the
Yeah.
final battle, and he steps on the big dude whose name escapes me.
Yeah. No, but I'd love Dan Man in this movie. He was probably one of my favorite characters in the movie. Like he he was used as the butt of the joke a lot, but it worked. Like he's that kind of character. He's a funny character.
Yeah, he's almost there to point out how ridiculous it is that a team like the Avengers exists.
Yeah, but I love it when he fans out over Captain America.
Yeah, it's great. It's just like it's like, hey, Cap, Steve,
Rogers.
Yeah, 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 Captain Rogers, Steve, America.
As far as I'm concerned,
that's America's ass. I love it. It's great. And then it even goes, which actually funnily leads into my next point. When they're in the diner, and the kids are like, they want to get a photo with Hulk. Now, Professor Hulk.
I remember when we first saw it, when we first saw Endgame.
Yeah.
My reaction, everybody's reaction, when Professor Hulk came onto the screen was just shock and awe.
Yeah, he does it so well. He's actually almost it's almost exactly the opposite of what Valkyrie says. It's almost like he is better than the sum of both of his parts.
Yeah.
So it's like when he shows up at New Asgard,
Yeah.
and he says hi to Valkyrie,
Yeah.
and he calls her Angry Lady, and then she goes, "I think I preferred you either of the other ways." It's like I actually think it's the exact opposite. I prefer Professor Hulk to the Hulk or Bruce Banner.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, Professor Hulk is the best of both worlds.
He's
confident because like when he's Banner, he's always afraid of like if he gets too angry, he's gonna Hulk out it was like a real Dr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Whereas like if he gets too angry or if he loses control, he'll hurt people and all that kind of stuff. But like he put the brains and the brawns together, as he says in the movie, and he's now best of both worlds. So he's more confident. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because he's not worrying about if the Hulk comes out and freaking out and smashing a whole bunch of stuff because he's the Hulk.
Yeah. And
then you always had like the Hulk had all of this raw, uncontrolled power, but he had no intelligence to back it up with.
I've kind of noticed because we've seen the movie 3 times now. Probably going to see it a 4th time. Let's be honest.
Let's be real.
He doesn't refer to himself as like Professor Hulk. He refers to like that's what everybody calls him.
Yeah,
like, that's what the fans call him. But like he says in the movie, he got it the worst because Hulk lost. Then first Hulk lost, then Banner lost,
yeah,
then we all lost.
But
he refers to himself as everyone refers to him as Bruce. He refers to himself as Bruce because
it is him. It is his brain, his mind, his personality in the body of the Hulk.
Yeah.
But that line where he says it was worse for him actually leans into like the first sort of half an hour of the movie is half an hour 45 minutes. So obviously the first 10 minutes is Tony coming back, being rescued by Captain Marvel.
Actually, that was
I kind of like. That's probably the best way to bring her in straight away. I thought that
Captain Marvel was the biggest ex machina in film history. She comes out when like they're just about to lose. Captain Marvel come in for the rescue.
Yeah, actually, I have a point about that later.
Yeah.
I've actually got her at the end of this list.
Nice.
So yeah, she comes and rescues Tony just before they run out of oxygen and brings her back, and he's weak, and you see how he reacted to the loss.
Yeah.
Obviously, so he starts. Actually, it's funny. You see as the fact that he's been rescued washes over him. The hit of the loss sort of takes effect way after everyone else. Like everyone else, like you see Steve and Nat.
Yeah.
And like. Obviously, you see Bruce Banner
and
Thor and stuff. They've been sat around on Earth for like maybe a week or 2,
like 3 weeks, close to like a month.
Yeah. So you see that. So they've already had time to like come to terms with the fact that they've lost.
Yeah.
They lost to Thanos, but Tony and Nebula have been fighting for their lives, basically, like trying to get back, and they're lost in the depths of space. So they don't They haven't really had time to process that loss.
Yeah.
So you see when Captain Marvel lands the ship and he comes out, he's got that immediate relief. Like he has that moment with Cap where he goes, "I lost."
Yeah.
And he goes, "I lost the boy," and Cap says, "We all lost. Like
Yeah.
collectively, we lost," which is actually in itself the first nod back to Age of Ultron,
Yeah, when
where he
he
says,
said, like, we'll
"If we'll lose," and he says, "Well, we'll do that together too,"
and
which Tony brings back less than 2 minutes later when
Yeah.
it sort of sinks in and it washes over him, and he goes, "I needed you," past tense.
yeah,
Like
you weren't there.
You weren't there when you were supposed to be, and that was it. And that's sort of how Tony's always reacted to any sort of loss. So it's not out of character for him. He freaks out. He takes it the hardest.
Yeah,
Which is strange, really, if you think about it, because he's the only one with no
powers.
outright power or skill. Like even Hawkeye has like his ability to be ridiculously accurate and
Yeah.
all that shit. Like he's not super powered, but he is super skilled, whereas Tony is a genius with a suit of armor.
Yeah,
So that is probably how most people would react.
yeah.
And then obviously they go out and they chop Thanos' head off, as Thor likes to point out. For
Well,
most of the movie.
as what Captain America, when they find out where he is, when he's at the garden, it still makes me tingle. It still makes my parts tingle when I hear Captain America say, "Let's go get this son of a bitch."
Yeah.
It makes me giddy every time. I mean, like, I know how it's gonna react. I know how it's gonna play out. I know.
Yeah, like you know.
Like, they're
even
going
even
for
like
blood.
if you haven't seen it before and you've got in there, you know that whatever happens can't go exactly to plan
Yeah.
because we're 10 minutes into a movie.
Yeah.
And like the title scene hasn't even played out yet.
No.
Does it?
No, it plays out right after he says.
Right after he says,
"Let's go get this son of a bitch."
yeah. And
Yeah.
then you go, "Dun, dun, 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 dun." Which I love. And then obviously he cuts Thanos' head off. Well, Thor cuts Thanos' head off
Yeah.
with Stormbreaker, which I kind of like. It's like an act. It's almost like Thor threw a tantrum.
Well, yeah. I mean,
And
like
because
they
they
lost.
found out that
he lost the hardest because he had like in Infinity War he could
had-
have stopped it. He could have if he just
could
went
have
for the
aimed
head.
for the head. Yeah,
If he had just gone for the head.
which I knew that'd be a callback, and I liked that it was early on, so we weren't waiting for it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't obvious, because they find out that Thanos has used the stones to destroy the stones, and that they don't have Infinity Stones anymore. And then Thor cuts his head off, and because they're all still trying to come to terms with whether or not they're there, Rocket freaks out,
Yeah.
and he's like, "What did you do?" And he just goes, "I aimed for the head," and then he walks off, and then you see him later. But yeah, like and then for the next sort of 45 minutes, you see how they all handle it. Like Nat throws herself into the Avengers role, and she's like
Yeah.
trying to
like,
handle every minor problem because that's the only thing she knows how to do.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel flies off into the void and starts helping thousands of other planets.
And she.
I know a few
She got a
people.
bad haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's a nod to the comic books.
It's a
but
nod to the
still.
comic books, but
I do like her, Captain Marvel's line at the beginning when they're like, "Excuse me, like, where the hell are you going?" She's like,
oh yeah,
"There are
like,
there are thousands of planets out there, and they're not all lucky enough to have you guys."
Mm.
And you're like, that's without outright going out and going, "You guys are the best." It was like a nod, going like, "You guys are clearly doing the right thing for your planet."
Yeah. But not every planet has Avengers.
Yeah, which is good. It also gives her an excuse gives them an excuse to brush her away for the majority of the plot
Yeah.
because she is so overpowered.
Oh yeah, she is ridiculously overpowered.
Yeah, so you get like from then on, you get everyone's reaction to how they've lost differently. Like obviously, Hawkeye goes to Ronan, Nat throws herself to work. Rhodey, Rocket, Nebula, and Captain Marvel seem to stay relatively the same. Like, you
Yeah.
don't see them much. Steve obviously throws himself into like counseling and trying to help other people and being the Bucky optimist that he is. See what I did there?
Yeah.
And then like Tony goes almost complete recluse. Like, he gets the cabin by the lake and it's just family. He doesn't really do much
Yeah.
sciencey stuff.
I
Except
mean, like
build a certain Iron Man suit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm glad that's where they took it with Tony Stark, because I had a feeling that he was going to I had a feeling that they were going to go off and start a family, and it that just I like Tony Stark. I love Tony Stark in this movie.
Yeah, he's fantastic. It really is. It's like the
Like this is his
it was
story arc.
it was exactly where his character should have gone.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Avenger who takes the loss the hardest by far was Thor.
Oh yeah,
Who has, when you see him, really let himself go.
yeah.
And
Fat Thor.
I
A lot
love
of
Fat Thor.
A lot of people didn't. A lot of people were like, "Oh, where's my thin Thor?"
No, I like it. I think that
I think that's a like.
by Guardians 3, he will be back to his...
See, I didn't mind like when you go think like story wise. When you think of Thor, you think of like the god of thunder, now king of Asgard. You know, this mighty Stormbreaker wielding god. And then after what's happened, he's now fat. He's now let himself go. He's now playing Fortnite with a giant rock and and a slug eating pizza on the couch.
Oh, Thor, he's back.
Hey
New
guys,
master.
yeah, oh yeah, Korg and Meek sitting on the couch
Playing Fortnite. I love
Thor, that guy's back. Just call me a dickhead again.
it. Yeah, I love it.
No,
'cause-
but like it humanizes the character. It makes him more like down to. It makes him like you can sympathize with the character because, you know, ever since his movie,
Yeah.
his brother was murdered in front of him twice.
Twice.
His father was murdered in front of him. His mother was murdered in front of him.
His sister cut his eye out.
His sister, he had to kill his own sister, and his
And then-
sister cut out his eye, and then he lost his hammer. That was pretty which he
Yeah,
as
and
as
then...
Korg, I'm pretty sure as Korg said he had a emotional connection to as almost as if losing a loved one.
Yeah, and
Which
then...
is a nice way to put it.
And then Thanos has Heimdall killed.
He
And then
kills his best friend.
half of his home
Half-
planet gets blown up,
Yeah,
and then half of his population, like the remaining population, is killed by Thanos.
yeah,
And
they
then
end
he
up,
loses to Thanos
yeah. So-
again.
So he has been repeatedly kicked. Like
Yeah, he's just
like,
taken hit
theoretically
after hit.
kicked in the nuts again and again and again. He is a beaten down god, and he has just let himself go. And I love that's where they went with it. It completely humanizes the character, and that's the kind of you know his arc's not over. Like his story has still like I'm pretty sure they have one more movie left for Thor. And,
I
feel like
that maybe they have put the end of that story arc into the Guardians of the Galaxy. Because I can't... To have that scene at the ship and not have him in Guardians 3
yeah.
would be a waste of effort. I just hope they play it right, because you still want Guardians to feel like Guardians 3. You don't want to feel like Thor 3 Thor 4 with the Avengers.
Yeah.
Not with the Guardians.
I feel like Guardians. I'm gonna spitball because I feel like Guardians is going to be because Gamora comes back. Gamora's back. Well, she's not back. This is like
She's kind of back, yeah.
Past Gamora is back. She and then she's on the run because Thanos is dead. She's on the run, and I feel like Quill is going to be searching for her, and since that Thor is a temporary member of the Asgardians of the Galaxy, as he puts it, I feel like Adam Warlock is going to be a big part to play. I feel like he's going to be... I'm going to speculate that he may be a bad guy for now.
I think he will
he's
almost
turned.
definitely show up in Guardians 3 as the bad guy. And if he does, they need Thor on that team.
Yeah.
Because
he's
obviously
space-
we've read comic books. He's space god.
Yeah, he's Space Jesus.
Yeah, he's ridiculously overpowered.
Yeah.
It's insane, like the stuff that he can do, and you'd need someone of Thor's power level to even go one-on-one with him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in the comics the only way that they stopped Adam Warlock before he turned good was entrapping him in the Soul Stone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
which is destroyed. Oh, not
Well,
destroyed. It's put back in its place, which we could see the Soul Stone again.
Yeah, true. Actually, there was
And actually, we were talking about this on the way, like coming back from the movies last night. That I feel like the next couple movies, because we've seen the other stones had their story told, like, the use of the other stones in the last movies, but we saw nothing of the Soul Stone.
Yeah,
All we saw was Vormir.
Yeah, we've seen every stone used to its full potential
Hmm.
in a Marvel movie so far, except for the Soul Stone, which you only see used once in Infinity War when he punches Doctor Strange so hard his soul comes out of his body.
Yeah.
But there is actually in the whole... So, like, obviously they go back in time.
Yeah.
So they all work out, like, Ant-Man comes back, they go to Tony, Tony says no, Tony comes back.
Yeah.
There's that scene where Ant-Man turns into an old man, a child, and then a baby, and then back into himself, which is hilarious. And then Tony comes back and he's like, I solved time travel. And then he gives Captain America his shield back.
Just kind of like...
And then it plays the first Avenger Captain America theme.
Yeah.
For like a few notes, which I love.
Hmm.
And then they go back in time. And they all go off for their respective stones. They work out that if you pick the right year, there's 3 stones in New York.
Yeah, I love what they call it too. They call it time heist.
Yeah, the time heist. Yeah,
there's so many, and if you haven't noticed, if you don't know by now, time travel is a big part of this. It's the only way they can actually.
Yeah, it's
the only way.
Almost the crux of the plot.
It's the crux of the plot, and a lot of people are like picking out points where it's like, oh, this doesn't really make sense here. This doesn't make sense.
Like, of course
here.
it doesn't make sense. It's
time
time travel.
Time travel doesn't make sense regardless. And I love what the Russo brothers did when they wrote it in, because time travel is one of the hardest things to write cohesively.
Yeah, so they wrote around it by changing the rules.
Yeah, they wrote around it by changing the rules of time travel to suit them.
Yeah,
because they basically said, like, because all we know about time travel is if you go, like, the simplest way to understand it, if you go back to the past and change the past, that changes your future.
Yeah,
but
whereas they changed it. They said you can't go back and change the past. So what does he say? He says if you go back and change the past, your new past becomes your future, your present, and your current present becomes your past. It can't then become your future.
Even saying that now...
But even that, like, he sort of does it. And Nebula's answer, like, hits the nail on the head for, like, how that's supposed to sound. Because while all of, like, the humans around, you've got, like, Clint and Ant-Man and Rhodey, and Hulk's trying to explain this, and Nebula just goes, exactly.
I'm like, fuck off.
And you're like, yeah, exactly. No, that's fair. You're like, she's a super robot from space, so she should be the only one that kind of makes sense to. And even then, it doesn't.
I just love the reaction from Scott. It's just like, Back
to the Future is bullshit.
So Back to the Future is just a whole bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and then because it's funny because the actual, like,
which it kind of makes sense in a way, because when you time travel, that, I don't know, time travel doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, whatever you change shouldn't. It's one of those, like, infinite loops things, like the Time Turner in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So it's like they go back and they do stuff, but everything that they've done has already happened.
Yeah.
They just don't know. They haven't seen it from that perspective yet.
Yeah.
We'll not go into the whole Harry Potter thing because we'll be here for hours.
Yeah. And if we go into time travel, we're just going to talk about it for
so obviously, but it's funny because, like, the actual time travel bit, it doesn't actually serve much outside of getting the Soul Stone. Like, obviously they all get the stones. You have that bit with Bruce and the Ancient One where she goes, "Oh, maybe I made a mistake."
Yeah, and that's what I love.
And she adds that all the Infinity Stones have to go back to the exact moment that they were taken.
Yeah,
which I like.
And I honestly I forgot what I was going to say, but oh shit, I forgot what I was going to say. I completely went.
That's
to
right. I can take this. None of the other characters, like, it doesn't. The only other major point, like the actual major thing that happens during the time travel bit, which is weird.
Oh, I just remembered what I was going to say.
It's go quickly before you forget.
I just forgot it. Go on.
Oh, for God damn. It serves to reintroduce Thanos.
Yeah.
So they have Nebula's memory banks crossed, so that he remembers and so that he realizes what happens, which I think is actually where the phrase in Infinity War, "You're not the only one cursed with knowledge" is.
Yeah.
Because he knows what's going to happen to him.
Yeah. Also, I noticed in the movie, and I remember what I was going to talk about, but I'll go back to that in a second. Well, actually, I'll just say it now before I completely forget. That the whole point, like, I'm going back to time travel.
Yeah.
This movie isn't about time travel.
No,
time
it's not.
travel is just
It's a
device.
component.
It's
Yeah.
just a device used to move the plot of the story.
Yeah.
As just because they time travel, does not really.
It's not a time travel movie.
It's not a time travel.
It's a movie with
it's just
time
a movie.
travel in it.
Yeah, pretty much. And what I was gonna say with Thanos, at first I didn't really pick up the fact that when he looks at the hologram through Nebula's head, when he looks at the hologram and sees them talking about the time heist, and Gamora goes, "Who's that?" and Thanos goes, "Avengers, an unruling wretch." I know that. I didn't get that, but how's he know who they are? I know that because from the first one, like when Loki
loses to the Avengers,
to him, he knows who beat him. He knows it's the Avengers, so he knows
he knows who they are.
And I'm assuming that's how he knows who Stark is through that. So Stark has always been in Thanos' head, and
vice versa.
And like a lot of people like speculate, it's like, oh, they're mentally connected. No,
they've seen each other because Scarlet Witch gives
Scarlet
Iron Man
Witch.
the vision by accident, which I think is the actual. So everyone else has visions of like what they want or like things that scare them.
Yeah.
I actually think that Tony is shown Thanos because he's had an interaction with the Mind Stone, which used to belong to Thanos, which makes sense.
Or you could possibly say that he saw what Thanos what
Thanos wanted.
Yeah. Or what he saw Thanos' future or his possible future.
Yeah. So so like the actual like time travel, it's a plot device used to move it, but not really. Other than them getting the stones, no major plot points happen. You have Cap versus Cap, which I love. You have Loki disappear with the Tesseract, which I think is to set up the Loki TV show.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited
which I kind of like
how that goes, because that takes place just after the attack on New York.
Yeah,
and in that movie, you find out that if he loses that fight, Thanos will hunt him down, and the Chitauri will kill him.
Yeah.
So I feel like that movie will be him on the run from Thanos.
Probably. Now, rein it in, we're talking about Endgame.
Okay.
Just trying to keep it on track. We're already at like half an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have like Cap versus Cap, and then you have like the Hulk throw a tantrum, like angry Hulk, and like you have the little nod to the comic, another little nod to the comic book with Cap going "Hail Hydra" to get the scepter, which I love, even though that comic book art was complete shit.
I never read it, but I do know
garbage.
what you're talking about. That was Serpent Society, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, I know I'm going off tangent.
It was, but again,
we're talking about Endgame.
Rein it in. We're so bad at this. The only two major plot points is you get Thanos finding out that the Avengers are doing a time heist, and then you get him getting the Pym particles to go to the future, which sets it apart, like the third act, which we'll get to. And you have Nat sacrificing herself for the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
Which people hated, but I feel like Nat was the right choice.
Yeah.
Especially when they funneled it down to it had to be Hawkeye or Nat. It had to be Nat.
Yeah, because her story arc had finished. And like we knew we were getting Black Widow solo film. Yeah.
We all knew that was going to be a prequel.
Yeah, I feel like Budapest is going to be in it.
It has to be. I think it has to involve Budapest, otherwise they wouldn't have brought it up again.
Yeah, and I feel like Budapest will be nothing what we're expecting. I feel like it's just going to be like a quick firefight.
Yeah. I reckon that Budapest will be... Nat'll be... If you're gonna have Budapest, it'll be... She's sent to kill someone.
Yeah.
Barton's sent to stop them. They've both been... Maybe not both been betrayed, but maybe Nat's been betrayed, and they team up to get her out of the trouble, and then he recruits her to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
I would say, in base terms, that'll be how that plays out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like, none of the time heist stuff it's got some good like story moments. It sets up a few things later.
Yeah.
Like it gives Tony his closure with his dad,
Yeah.
which I love.
that
That awkward hug.
Yeah, but
It just epitomizes their relationship.
that whole scene just made me smile.
Yeah, and then it sets up Cap going back, and it kind of hints that he always has gone back and lived his life with Peggy because she's got his photo on the desk,
Oh yeah.
which is realistically right. It's 1970. He goes down in 1940
Yeah.
or 1945 at the end of World War II.
Yep.
Which means that she's had his photo on her desk for 25 years.
Yeah. I mean, she's committed.
Yeah, so like, but we know that she married just after World War II.
Yeah. You gotta think, for her husband, that'd be like kind of like he's dead. Can you get rid of his photo?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think if Cap's gone back,
Yeah.
and he was the husband all along, it's the one timeline theory. Like there isn't multiple timelines.
Yeah.
He's always been the husband.
Yeah. Yeah. But did you ever watch
Because she even
Agent,
said,
did you ever watch like Carter Shield, whatever that
No.
show was called? I never really got into it. But like, did they ever like? Go
I
into
don't think they ever do.
Yeah.
But it even says she even says in
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier that he would have liked him because they're the same person.
Oh yeah.
But that's like there's no answer to that theory, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have so they all get their stones. Like Cap gets the hint for later. Tony gets his closure.
Yep.
Then they all go back and they create their own Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Which I like. It's got like the slight hint, like it's expectation subversion, where they build the Iron Man gauntlet and they put the stones in it,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "Oh, Tony's gonna wield the stones,"
Yeah.
and then Hulk goes, "No, it's basically all gamma radiation. It has to be me."
Yeah.
And then Hulk does it,
Yeah.
and he snaps his, and it gets bigger, and
Yeah.
then he snaps his fingers, and it brings back half, and then at the same time, evil Nebula has taken good Nebula's place and brought Thanos into the present day, which sets up the final fight
Yeah.
where everything happens.
It's so hard to put into words how absolutely awesome that last fight is. It is ridiculously good.
It is fantastic, and it uses everyone correctly. So Thanos bombs the Avengers headquarters and basically just turns into like a desolate war zone before the war's even started.
Yeah.
You've got Rhodey and Rocket, Ant-Man and Hawkeye all fall down into a crater separately, I'd like to point out.
Yeah.
So you have Rhodey canopy his suit,
Yeah.
despite the fact he can't walk without it,
Yeah.
to rescue Rocket. You've got Hulk lifting up rubble.
He's basically
He's holding up basically the entire ground at this point,
Yeah.
just to stop everyone from doing it while water rushes in,
Yeah.
and they're about to drown. And that's what keeps them separate. Hawkeye lands with the Infinity Gauntlet,
Yeah. Oh, that was
or the new Infinity Gauntlet,
Yeah, that's just lucky.
which yeah, it's sort of like that wouldn't happen. Basically, because like
There's a lot of
on top
but
of
there's a lot of
yeah.
there's a lot of bits in this movie where it's just like, oh, that was lucky.
Yeah, but that's just movies, isn't it? It can't be perfect without having just a bit of like just random luck.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Which leaves our three first Avengers, the three combatants of the Avengers team,
Yeah.
to face off against Thanos. So the three people who've taken the three biggest hits from this big bad
Yeah.
have,
It's Iron Man, Cap, and Fat Thor.
and that little interaction. There's a little joke from Iron Man just before where he wakes him up and he goes, if you lose this again, I'm gonna have to keep it.
Oh yeah, when he picks up his shield.
Yeah, when he picks up his shield,
Yeah.
and he gives it to him, and he comes out, and Thor's stood there in his fucking hoodie, with his hands in his pocket, just staring at Thanos with this probably the most serious look on his face that he's had all movie.
Yeah.
With his long hair and his big bushy beard.
Yeah.
And then he stands there, and they have like this brief discussion. And they're like, "Oh, he clearly doesn't have the stones," and they're like, "Okay, let's keep it that way." And Thor just goes,
Let's kill it.
you know, it's a trap."
Yeah.
And Iron Man just looks at both of them and goes, "I don't much care." And Thor has this great, like, it's almost like his own personal redemption.
Yeah.
Where he just goes, as long as we're all on the same page, and it's got my favorite bit where nobody's gonna be able to see this but you, where he holds both of his hands out, and his eyes do like go bright blue.
He
and
goes full on Raven.
The clouds go over.
Yep.
And then he just like he just gets covered in lightning, and then he catches Mjolnir, which he brought back from
When he went back in time.
When he went back to Dark World, and then he catches Stormbreaker, and he gets like covered in lightning, and he's got his suit on. His hair goes back, and he's got the Viking braid in his beard, which I lost my absolute shit.
Like I didn't even care. It was honestly, I reckon, like, Fat Thor kind of suited that moment. Like,
he
he's bigger.
looks like an aged Viking at this point, like
Yeah.
a battle hardened aged Viking.
Yeah.
Like, I loved it. And like, you were sat in front of me at the cinema, like the row in front, and I sat next to my brother, and I was just like, I just grabbed him on the shirt, I pulled him close, and I just went, "Look at his beard," because I don't know why it had such a profound effect on me, but I was like, the Viking beard just made that moment.
Yeah.
And like, it's by him capturing Mjolnir and Stormbreaker at the same time,
Yeah.
you were just like, okay, he means business. And it distracts you from what's about to happen.
Oh.
So, and then they have the fight, and I'm like almost vibrating just thinking about how I felt the first time I watched it.
No, at this point,
From this point on,
They're
it's
getting their
basically
ass.
like an emotional overload.
Yeah.
Especially for like there's two types of people who went and saw this on the same day. There are the people who have been on board since 2008 with every Avengers, and I don't doubt that this is a huge moment for them.
Yeah.
And then there's us, who have, which I'm not. I'm not trying to take this away from anybody, and I know it might come across badly, but this is not a culmination of like 11 years. This is not the final chapter in 11 years. This is seeing for the first time since childhood characters we've grown up with.
Yeah.
Like, this is huge. And then you finally see like these three guys go against the biggest bad in the MCU.
Yeah.
And the fight in itself is just the teamwork. You have like separate moments. You've got like Thor whipping Mjolnir and Stormbreaker around. You've got Iron Man flying up into the sky and like firing the lasers down while Cap throws shields at him.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment where Tony opens the reactor up in his back.
Yeah.
And Thor
Just shoots
charges up,
and
smacks Stormbreaker and Mjolnir together, and
just
fires a
shoots.
bolt of lightning into
Yeah.
him, which just overpowers him, which
Yeah.
is a callback to when
they first
Thor struck him with lightning in the first Avengers.
Yeah.
And it shot his power up to 600%.
Yeah.
Which clearly, I would say that Tony's realized that that's the thing he could do, and he's built that into his suit specifically for that.
Yeah.
And then,
You're really nerding out at this point, aren't you?
I'm really losing it. I'm basically giving you like a play-by-play of this fight because it's to explain something that happens in a minute.
Yeah.
And then you have, which honestly is like, I shouldn't love it as much as I do when Thor whips Mjolnir up.
Yep. And then
just baseball hits Mjolnir with Stormbreaker at Thanos. Thanos catches Iron Man, lifts it up. That knocks Iron Man out.
Oh, you know what? I just realized. So, in the comics, so I can't remember what comic it is, but Thanos in the comics, he rips Iron Man in half. He rips Iron Man in half, and it's pretty gruesome. I feel like that was probably a core. This fight has so many comic
it's
book
so many like
callbacks.
slight nods and callbacks. To, like
I feel like at that point he was going to
he
rip
would
him.
have done it. Yeah,
He would have ripped him in half until he got hit by Mjolnir.
yeah, and that knocks him out, and then Thanos starts to beat the crap out of Thor. And so obviously like Mjolnir's landed somewhere else.
Yeah.
He throws the helicopter blade, which is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah,
He throws the helicopter blade. Thor slides underneath it
Yeah.
and just starts like going to town with the axe.
Yeah.
He gets beat. He gets knocked. He gets thrown to a rock. He tries to. I didn't notice until like the third time we watched it. He tries to summon the axe.
Yeah.
Thanos punches him. He then gets up, summons the axe. Thanos catches the axe because I think people haven't realized that Odin hasn't put the same spell on it.
Stormbreaker doesn't have that.
Doesn't
spell.
hold the may he so what is it? He whomever holds this hammer shall, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Yeah.
And he like starts to push it into like you'd see him like almost start to push it into
like Thor's chest.
Thor's chest, which at the point this is like how none of us saw this coming. As he was pushing it in, my brother leant over and he went, he's gonna let him stab him and go, you should have aimed for the head.
Oh, that
and
was
strike
cool.
for lightning,
Yeah.
which I think is what they were going for.
Yeah.
And then you see Mjolnir lift and fly towards Thanos, and you think, oh, Thor's called his own hammer. It hits Thanos. Thanos drops Stormbreaker, then it flies back, but Thor doesn't catch it. Captain America does.
And when that happened,
And
holy
I think
shit!
I've never heard an audience like just
Lose their shit.
There was no sound, but everyone moved.
Yeah.
Like it was just this rustling, like the entire cinema was just like sat up in their chairs and was just like, "What is
The
this?"
second time I saw the movie, I was sitting in a cinema. It was like 9:30 at night. It was still packed. There was a guy in the middle of the cinema. That scene when Cap caught Mjolnir, and then all of a sudden I just hear this one dude go, "Holy shit, he did it!"
Yeah. I love it,
and I'm thinking to myself, that's the correct thing to do.
That is the correct response.
Yeah.
And I like Thor's little reaction where he just goes, "I knew it,"
Yeah.
which means that ever since they all tried to lift the hammer
In Age of Ultron.
and Cap lifted it, but it didn't come up.
Yeah.
Thor's known since then that Cap was worthy.
Yeah.
Which leads into, like, obviously, like, Thor's out for a little bit. You see Cap whip the hammer and the shield around. Another callback to Avengers 1 where he throws the shield and he throws Mjolnir into it and it creates a shockwave.
Also, it's kind of a throwback. There's so many. I cannot express how many comic book throwbacks there are. There's a scene. If you pause and play each scene in that battle, there's a scene where Cap holds up Mjolnir and when he summons down lightning. That's the direct
cover of
that's a direct cover of one of the comics. He's holding up Mjolnir and he has his shield.
And he has the shield. Yeah. It's a panel by panel replica.
Pretty much. Also, the way halfway through the battle, they're starting to lose, and then when you see, also, because this is past Thanos, you can really see a difference between
The way he
Infinity
fights.
War,
Like
and Infinity War and Endgame Thanos, because Endgame Thanos he's not at his peak, but he's still enjoying slaughtering trillions of people. Like he just by hand with his blade,
like
with
he's enjoying it.
Yeah, he's enjoying it.
Because you almost see a hint to that when they're in 2014.
Yeah,
and you see like past Nebula and Gamora, and he comes in and he's teleporting and he's got the blade and it's covered in, and he just like grabs a rag and just starts like casually wiping blood off the end of his sword.
Yeah, and in this movie, that the line that he says to Captain America when he says, after he's kicked his ass, threw him like 50 meters across the compound, and he goes, "In all my years of conquest and violence, it's never been personal. But what I'm about to do to your annoying little planet, I'm going to enjoy very, very much." Yeah. And then,
which leads into the greatest silence of all time. I love all music cuts out.
Yeah.
This is super important. All music cuts out. There is nothing. There is Cap holding his broken shield.
Yep.
As he walks towards Thanos, which is another nod, almost panel for panel shot.
Which was?
Where when you see Cap stand there with his broken shield.
Yep.
And he stands directly across from Thanos.
And then his
it's
arm-
actually a
with his
a
army?
panel from in the panel it's just
Thanos.
Thanos, but he's not there to beat Thanos that time.
Yeah.
He's there to bide time, and it doesn't happen in the comic either.
Yeah.
But he basically he in the comic he goes 1-on-1 with Thanos, knowing full well he's gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's like a nod to that, and you're like, okay, this is gonna happen.
I'll be honest with you, before you go on, I'll be honest with you, I honestly thought that's how Cap was going to die. I thought he was going to go like
Mono
mono a mono, Jon Snow type style, gets out his broadsword and just takes on a full army.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that's like I think that's what we were supposed to think.
By the way, that's the only scene I've ever seen from Game of Thrones because I've been told to watch it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, that's the exact moment that you're. I think that's what you're supposed to be. That's why they used that shot.
Yeah.
And then, like, all music cuts out, and he tightens his shield over like a massive gash in his arm.
Yeah.
He just tightens it up, and then you hear like faded radio.
Also, I kind of realized kind of recently that this movie, when it comes to filming techniques, there's a technique called or not I don't know what it's called, but basically the technique is if you want your character to do a certain thing, like if you want your character to go left, go right instead, because your audience will always suspect that.
Yeah.
Like for when Cap caught Mjolnir, when everybody thought that Thor was going
to catch it.
Thor was going to catch it. You know, you do what the audience wasn't expecting, and that's what got us our massive reaction.
Yeah. Because if it was Cap running at him and you saw Mjolnir move, you'd have known what was going to happen.
Yeah. And then
because you hadn't seen Cap in several shots
yeah.
leading up to that, in your mind, the character at the forefront of your brain at that particular moment was Thor.
Yeah.
And then Thor's weapon moved, therefore Thor was going to catch it.
Yeah. And then even with, as you said, that shot where he's standing and facing off against Thanos and his entire army.
And you're like, he's going to fight Thanos and his entire army.
He's going to, like, that's... I honestly thought that was what's going to happen. He even started to move towards it, and then...
And then you get the crackle on the radio,
yeah.
and you get Cap.
Yeah.
It's like... And then you even see, like, the shock in his face.
Yeah.
And
you can see the shock and relief. It's like, oh, thank Christ.
And then you hear it again, and he goes, Captain.
Yeah.
And then you see Doctor Strange's like magic portal open up.
His yellow sparkly thing.
And then you have the another callback to Winter Soldier where he goes, on your left.
Yeah.
Which I love. And then like
I'm not gonna lie, I wept. Like
I
started the tear
bawling
up.
like a baby at this point.
Yeah.
And then like Black Panther comes out with Shuri and with
someone pointed out to me that Black Panther's arms, or what's his name?
Chadwick
Boseman's arms.
Yeah.
They're fucking long.
They are very.
They
very
reach
long.
down to his knees.
Yeah, they are quite long.
He's like a black Slender Man.
He, like one portal opens up and like he comes out, and then you see Sam fly out and around.
Yeah.
And you just like at this point you're just like watching blurred visions of like characters moving around the screen because you're crying so much.
Yeah.
And then another portal opens up and Drax and Mantis and Peter Quill come through.
Yep.
And then in the background you see Spider-Man whipping through, and then you cry some more.
And I'm like, he's back!
And then he comes in, and like the helmet comes down, and you see like Tom Holland in his Spider-Man costume, and like at this point you're like shaking with just like you don't even know what.
Yeah. And then like another portal opens,
and then like all of the portals start to open, and you have like all these characters come out. Like Doctor Strange comes out.
You see wizards come out.
You see wizards come out, and then you see Howard the Duck come out.
That still blows my fucking mind. That Howard the Duck came out. He's got a massive gun, but the thing is, you got to really look for him.
You do have to really look. Like we only saw him, and we saw him in the third one, and we only saw it because your brother told us he was there.
Yeah, because I don't know where he found out that he was there, but like if you're gonna go out and watch it again, look behind the Wasp, because he's there. You see him, you see his build, you see him wearing his robe, and he got a massive gun. Oh
and
man!
Then
you see so many characters come back, small characters. Like you see like the OG Guardians.
Every character gets a moment in this big moment, and like it should take away from like every individual like return, but it doesn't. It's like it's this big moment, and then like Doctor Strange comes back, and Wong comes out with all of the wizards,
Yeah.
and like you see like a bunch of is it Skrull in the background?
Oh, yeah,
And then
scrolls come out.
you see like you do see a couple of Nova ships fly over.
Yep.
Um,
See Nova ships, you see Wakandan aircrafts,
you see, and then
so
like
much stuff.
all of the people come up, and then you see like M'Baku in like the corner as he comes up with his little hammer, it's big hammer,
Yeah.
and then like you just see like everyone comes back.
Yeah.
Like every minor character you've ever seen fight, you see Valkyrie come out with
Yep.
her
With the
with her
Pegasus.
Pegasus and a spear, and you see all the Asgardians come out with their old school armor on,
Yep.
and it just has this moment, and it's just building to this.
And
like,
then
it's
when you
just
think,
playing,
and then when
like,
you think
just this
more people couldn't come
triumphant-
out, fucking giant man
Ant-Man
shoots
breaks
out
through the
through
the
event-
rubble, and
Yep.
he opens his hand, and like Hulk and Rocket
and Rhodey,
Rhodey all come out.
and he's wearing like the maxed out War Machine armor.
And then it like pans across to Thanos, and like all of his guys are behind him, including the
Including like the big dude.
I
like,
can't remember what they're
more
called.
Big the children of the black. I don't know what they're called. Shadow
Yeah, no,
children.
it's-
I don't know. The children of Thanos. The children of Thanos and his Jatari and his dog army.
And
he's
like
got
the Leviathans.
the
and then you see-
Leviathans.
yeah, and like you just see the like everyone just behind him, and it plays, and then it cuts music again,
Yep.
and you just hear Cap go, "Avengers!" Put his hand out, catch Mjolnir, assemble, and then it
Oh.
plays the Avengers theme, and that was me gone. I was fucking lost it.
Even just talking about it now, I'm still getting giddy. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm probably gonna watch
It's just
it again.
that
We were tossing up last night either to watch the new
movie,
Seth
yeah.
Rogen movie or this
go and
again.
watch Avengers for the third time, and we
And
went to watch Avengers for
this
the
was
third
the
time.
third
Don't regret anything.
No.
And that scene where he's got his shield, he's got his entire team behind him for the first time,
Yeah.
realistically ever. Like
Yeah.
this is the first time the full like MCU's been behind Cap. And
Yeah.
it's the Avengers.
And then you
And then
see you see Captain America, Iron Man, you see Pepper, you see everybody just charging.
Pepper Potts shows
Pepper
up in her
Potts shows
rescue
up.
suit, and Scarlet Witch shows up like more powerful than ever, which I will get to
Yeah.
in a second. And it's just that scene where like like you think the music has built to its peak.
Yeah.
Then it cuts, and then you have the Avengers assemble, which we've never heard in an MCU movie before, and then it plays the Avengers theme,
Yeah.
but like more triumphant than it's ever been before.
You know what I'm actually looking forward to? I'm looking forward. You know how I forgot his name. The guy who did the score for Star Wars and Indiana
John
Jones.
Williams.
John Williams. You know how he does a concert every year?
Yeah.
I would go to a concert of this.
Alan Silvestri.
I would go to an
100%,
Alan
yeah.
Silvestri concert.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get on that. But yeah, it's like it's
You know
this
where the
huge-
idea came from.
And then there's a few, and then you have like moment after moment in this final battle where you've got literally everything.
Yeah.
You get Hawkeye come out. You have you have Ant-Man and Wasp nod and go, "Yeah, we're going to fix the van." And then like you have Hawkeye come out, realize he can't get through because he's not quick enough. He passes the gauntlet to Black Panther, and you have him do all of his flippy shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hot potato at this point with the Infinity
Yeah, with the
Gauntlet.
Infinity Gauntlet as they try and get it into the time portal to go back.
Yeah.
And then he gets caught by Ebony Maw, and then Spider-Man takes it over.
Every single time I see Ebony Maw on screen, I get a little bit annoyed. He's a cool character,
But he does kind of look like Squidward.
he looks like Squidward, but also he's I can't say the C word on this. He's an asshole.
He is an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have finally the payoff for Homecoming, where Spider-Man lands and he gets surrounded by Chitauri, and he goes, "Activate instant kill," and he just starts stabbing. And you know that like he's just trying to climb out of that, but the arms are just like stab, 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 stab. And like it cuts away and it cuts back, and he's just like trying to crawl out of basically just like a pile of dead Chitauri as they like
Yeah.
try and rip the arms off. And then
Oh man.
Cap throws Mjolnir and he webs onto it, and it's like this big, like, this massive teamwork to get to it, and then Thanos blows up the van.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
And then, which I don't think gets enough credit in this film, where he blows up the van and everything. Oh, it's before this, like before the van gets blown up, where he walks, like Thanos is like, I'm gonna go get my damn gauntlet, and I think he's going at Spider-Man at this point.
Yeah.
And he walks through, and Scarlet Witch drops.
Yeah.
And she's like just glowing red with like bright red eyes at this point.
Yeah.
And she goes one-on-one with Thanos.
Yeah. And I love what she
wins.
says. Yeah, I love what she says. She goes, "You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are."
Yeah, I do like the nod, because that happens in the last one, where it's like he says something and she goes, "I didn't even know who you are," and he goes, "Oh, you will."
Yeah.
And then she says the same thing back, which I love. And like, yeah, she like, it's got glossed over because like so much is happening in this scene, but she goes one-on-one with Thanos and wins.
And almost kills
Like,
him.
she's
She's about to rip his arms off.
yeah, she catches the sword with magic.
Yeah.
Like snaps one end of the sword in half, which is insane.
Yeah.
And then she like lifts him up, and I'm pretty sure she's either increasing the density like she did with Vision in Civil War, or she's like just trying to pull everything apart. Which it seems like, because like bits of armor are, like flaying off of him.
Yeah.
And he just goes rain fire.
Yeah, and kills
and they're like,
his
but
entire
all
army.
of our army is down here, and he's like, no, I don't care.
Yeah, and that's what
Kill this bitch dead.
And that's the thing about this Thanos too, because he will
care.
do anything. He will do everything he can to win. He will kill his own people if he has to, in order to prove a point. And that's what I like, and that's what I love about this Thanos. He's not younger, but he's more bloodthirsty, and he's less like, I'm not doing this for the betterment of the universe. I'm doing this to prove a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we kind of
touched on this earlier. Before we started recording.
Yeah.
We're saying that he, in Infinity War, he comes across as like self-righteous. Like he's doing the impossible to get his point across. But like in this, you kind of realize that he's not doing this for the betterment of the universe. He's doing it because
he can.
They told him that he was insane for thinking of it, and he's gone, "I'll show you."
Yeah,
and he does it because like, by destroying the Infinity Stones at the beginning, proves that he has no long-term plan. He's just going to kill half the universe and move on.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, like, if you're doing it for the betterment of mankind instead of halving the population, why didn't you double the resources?
I mean, yeah.
Which would be like...
And you know what? Everybody kind of thought... Yeah, I'm going to go into a massive tangent, and we have already run way over time.
Way over what we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
So we'll
so
go
leave
through like a few other... We'll skip over like most of the comedic moments. You have... just derailed me completely.
Yeah.
No, so you have him raining fire, and then all the guns start firing just into clouds.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what's this? And you get Friday go, something's just entered our lower atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then you have
the
Deus Ex Machina of the MCU. Captain Marvel just shows up, flies straight through a ship, does a loop, goes back through the top. The whole thing comes down. She stands there looking like Goku.
Which basically is Goku at this point.
Yeah, 100% is Goku.
She's overpowered as hell. And that's the best way they could have used her.
Yeah, definitely. And then you have, like, Thanos finally gets his hands on the gauntlet.
Yeah.
She comes down, she manages to hold the gauntlet open.
Yeah.
He headbutts her. She doesn't even flinch.
Doesn't move.
Which kind of worries me about the sequel for Captain Marvel 2, because you've put her up against Infinity Gauntlet wielding Thanos.
Yeah.
And the only bit of damage we've seen her take so far is when he physically pulls the Power Stone out
and then
holds it in his hand and uses the full full power of the strongest Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Punches her, and she still just gets up afterwards and is fine.
Oh yeah.
And then you have like this, like the final like moments of the film is, well, not like the actual pre-epilogue.
Yeah.
And you have Strange look at Stark, hold up one finger as if to go, "This is the 1 in 14 million."
Yeah.
And then Tony jumps forward. You think he's trying to pull the gauntlet off, and like Thanos just like knocks him back, and he goes, "I'm inevitable." I don't know if you heard that. I snapped my fingers. I assume you did. And then you're like, "Ah, but it doesn't work."
No.
And so Tony wasn't trying to get the gauntlet; he was just trying to take the stones,
which he succeeded in doing.
And then Thanos looks at his glove, flips it over, sees it's got no stones,
Yeah.
looks panicked as all hell, stares across, and you just see the gauntlets going up Tony's Iron Man suit.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
the thing is, I don't think he was panicked. I think he was more shocked because he thought he was because he must have thought he was the only one who was strong enough to wield the Infinity
Yeah,
Stones.
and you just see them like set place in the gauntlet of
Tony
Tony's
Stark.
Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, "Well, I am," and then like you just see him like struggle for a little bit as like the power goes through him.
Yeah.
Which you've seen with like the Hulk, and even when Thanos put the final stone in, he struggled to hold it for a little bit. So you see him like shake a little bit,
Yeah.
and he just goes, "I am Iron Man," and he snaps his fingers, and then Thanos and his entire army gets dusted, and then you have that big emotional scene where I'm crying again,
Yeah.
probably still,
Yeah.
and
Honestly,
you
just
have-
thinking about it now, I'm kind of starting to well up a little bit. But yeah, no, he turns brain dead after he does it.
he just sort of glazes over,
Yeah.
and
I mean, he used the entire force of practically the galaxy.
yeah, and that's like the only time like a human being has done that.
Yeah.
And-
Like one of the last only times that
Yeah,
a human
I
will
would say
ever do
the
it.
last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Still, what a way to end
Thanos
the
is
story.
dusted. Tony stood there just ashed to all hell, like
Yeah.
just a mess.
Yeah.
And then you have like Rhodey. Rhodey, I think has it's low key. It's like it's the biggest outside of Pepper. It's got to be the biggest hit,
Yeah.
and he knows it's happened, and he just takes a step back because he doesn't need that moment.
Yeah.
Like he takes his helmet off, he looks at Tony, puts his hand on his like the side of his head, and he just takes a step back.
Yeah.
And then Peter Parker lands as Spider-Man, and he's got his helmet down, and he just freaks out, which I think is going to play a massive part in Far From Home.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's another.
But that's another.
That's another
We'll get
because
into
we
that.
are really over time.
And then you have Pepper's thing,
Yeah.
which like is
That's emotional.
it's emotional, and I'm going to be honest, I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow as an actress.
You don't like her.
I'm not a fan. Like, this is like the MCU is like the only thing I've watched with her in it that I don't fucking hate.
Fair enough.
But then like you have like, then obviously he passes away, and you get like Cap's story at the end. He goes back in time and he lives with Peggy, which I love, and the shield gets passed on to Sam,
Yeah.
not Bucky, which I think surprises quite a lot of people.
No,
Even though I've said from the beginning I don't think Bucky as a character is ready for that responsibility.
No,
Because you remember, like, this is the first time this is, like, Infinity War and Endgame is the only time he's acted as a hero.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, he is probably the one who finds himself to be the least capable,
Worthy, yeah.
least worthy person to hold the mantle of Captain America because he was brainwashed by the Soviets. He was made to be an assassin.
Yeah.
He committed hundreds of atrocities, like over 12 dozen like major assassinations, and he killed Tony Stark's parents, which never got resolved.
Yeah, which
But
never
he
got
still
resolved.
went to the
But he
funeral.
still went to the funeral, which I was kind of I was going to say after we watched it yesterday. There's that scene where they so they put a wreath in the lake with Tony Stark's first arc reactor in it, the one that Pepper had made into
The one
proof
that says-
proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Which again, now I'm crying again. And then you have like it pans through like every major character in the MCU, like Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, like the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You get a Hank Pym, and I can't remember his wife's name.
Yeah.
It escapes me at the moment. And then like all of the
Susan?
people, you have the kid from Iron Man 3.
Yeah, who knew no one. I don't know.
I knew.
I didn't.
I worked it out.
I didn't. I just thought. I honestly thought it was the kid from the beginning on the bike.
Yeah, well, you're an idiot.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, he must have had a really big part
Yeah.
to play.
So you have that, and then you've got like it goes over, and there's like Sam and Bucky and
Yeah.
I think Maria Hill. For some reason, she's not stood with Nick Fury, which annoys me a little bit.
No, she was standing next to Thunderbolt Ross.
And then Sam puts his arm on Bucky, and you're like, they didn't even like each other.
Yeah.
You killed his parents, and like he still hasn't forgiven you for that.
Yeah.
But like I get that like, you're not supposed to think too deeply into that. And then obviously you get Cap goes back, puts all the stones back, and then lives with Peggy.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment, like you have the brief moment where it pans over like all of our heroes with Tony Stark's voiceover, where he goes, you know, hopefully if you're watching this, like it's in a like a
Celebration.
it's in celebration, like a remnants of the old world that we had. And then like he does his big like holographic speech. Like basically his last will and testament comes out of his helmet.
Yeah.
And then he's walked, like the hologram of him's obviously walked down to turn the actual helmet off when he's recorded it, and he looks directly at
His daughter.
Morgan,
Yeah.
and he goes, "I love you 3000," and then it just turns it off.
I'm getting emotional.
So we've gone way over time here. We're aiming for 45 minutes. We're like an hour and 10.
Yeah.
We just had to put our thoughts on this movie out there, and I know
Thoughts
it
and
ended
also
up,
scene by scene
it ended
breakdown.
up turning into like a full breakdown, which is funny because that's what I'm about to do. Have a breakdown. Look, thanks for listening, guys. We'd love to hear what you think of the movie. If you watched all of this and you haven't seen it,
Sorry.
why?
I mean,
But at least now you don't have to watch it because we've just told you everything that happens.
yeah.
Yeah. Look, we just needed. This is the biggest movie of
The MCU.
the MCU
So far.
possibly the decade. We'll see how Star Wars goes.
Yeah.
And we will
Hashtag bring back Palpatine.
hashtag bring back Palpatine. Yeah. Hide and seek champion 1983 to 2019. Yeah, so it's just been great to get all of this off our chest.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing you again soon.
Yeah, see you again soon.
Hey guys, keep it real.
Keep it real, guys.